Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, let's go. Kevin here, top 1 financial advisor and best-selling author. We are here to talk about the stock market. Today, I want to extend our conversation on net worth and give you the average and median net worth for Americans today. But before I do, yesterday's video, when I talked about the Fed, we were a little bit early. I'm sorry, I feel like I always do that, where I give you information one day earlier than what it's supposed to be. Wednesday, March 22nd, they're supposed to announce interest rates. I jumped the gun a day early, but everything I said still stands because I still think they're going to raise interest rates by 0.25%. Okay, so it is what it is, and we'll see what that means for the stock market. But my apologies, I was a day early. But back to the topic on net worth. Remember, net worth is the amount you have after all of the bills are paid. That is your assets minus your liabilities. That's going to be your net worth. What are your assets? Your cash, your bank accounts, your investment accounts, even your real estate. You can throw in your car if you want to. Personally, I do not, but you can. Those are anything you can sell for money. Those are your assets minus your liabilities. So this is student loans, personal loans, credit cards, all of that. You add up all the assets, subtract all liabilities, boom, you got your net worth. Now, what is the purpose of tracking net worth? This really is going to determine whether you are a millionaire or not, whether you are a billionaire or not, which would be great, but that is what we track those numbers by. Today, or really first, last week we did 2 videos about understanding net worth, how to track it and how I track it inside of members only. I gave out a spreadsheet, the exact spreadsheet I use on inserting and tracking my net worth and giving you a sense of like how I do it. Today, I want to show you the average and the median net worth for every American. I'll put it up on the screen in just a second, but first, definitions. Remember, now I taught 7th grade math. I wouldn't consider myself a math genius. However, average and median, those are 2 different things. Okay, and you have to remember that when you are looking at some of these averages, you've got people like Mark Zuckerberg that can fall in my generation, who I think he's in his 40s or so. He can throw off an average because he's worth, I don't know, 75, 80 billion dollars. So when he calculates his average and you throw him in there, that's going to shift the average much higher than what it actually is. So you really want to pay attention to median. I'm going to give you both today, but remember, median is just the middle number. You take everything, you find the middle number, and you have equal distance on both sides. Okay. Now, if y'all want a math lesson, I can do that, but I don't feel like doing that today. But in either case, the median is really the number you want to pay attention to. Now, I would not take these numbers and call them a benchmark for 2 reasons. Number one, everybody's scenario is different. I could break this exact same chart out and do it for men and women. I could do it for African Americans. I could do it for other racial groups, and these numbers are going to vary wildly. Everybody's journey and situation is going to be different. However, I do want you to have context. Not context to make you feel bad or behind, or not context to make you feel overly confident in case you are above the median in some of these categories. Just to give you context and say, okay, this is what the average is, this is what the median is, here's where I am, and make you aware of where you are, and then you can decide to move forward from there. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I will have these on the screen as I'm going through these, and I'm just gonna I'm gonna round up because there are a lot of numbers here. I want to get through these. All right, so this is for the head of the family here, so they're doing household net worth, and for those who are less than 35, the median net worth is about $14,000. $14,000. Now, if you are 35 and younger, which is a good chunk of those who watch this channel, remember, as you see here, like it starts to go up there. It's okay if your net worth is negative. My net worth was negative for a long time, and I will tell you up front, I didn't track my net worth because I knew it was negative for a while, and once I felt that it was getting closer to 0 and then positive, that's when I wanted to start to track it a bit more. Most people start in that space, right? You get a part-time job, you take out a student loan, perhaps you maybe get that first car, that first home, and it might be negative for a while. It takes time. It's totally fine. One analogy that a lot of people told me when I was starting to become a financial advisor and just kind of starting my adulthood, if you will, was that the financial journey sometimes is like a plane taking off. It's really difficult and really long as you're taking off, and eventually you'll get up there where it feels easier, right? Less gravity once you're in the air, and you know, you feel like you're floating, right? You're cruising. You're at cruising altitude, but getting there is rough if you've ever been on a plane, and sometimes it's a little turbulent as you're going to your destination. So think of it like that, but I would not be discouraged. But around 14,000 is the median. That's the number that I think is more accurate. And then you got the average at 76,300 for that category. For those 35 to 44, around $91,000 is the median compared to 436,000 for the average. When you start to move into, I guess, what most people would consider middle age, depending on what the middle is here, but you got 45 to 54 at 168,000, and then 800,000, close to 800,000 for the average. And I'm going to just skip down to 55 to 64, 200,000, 212,500, you want to be exact, and then 1.1 million, almost 1.2 million for the average for that category. As you move into 65, 266,000 as a median, and then 1.2 million again for the average. If you're watching this again on the screen, you can see the exact numbers. I'm just rounding out, it's just easier to say. And then 75 plus, 255,000 if you want to round. And then you'll notice that this one actually drops off, and it is 975,000 in average net worth. So notice that once you get to a certain point, it starts to decrease just a bit in terms of net worth. That is normal. And I don't think a lot of people think about that when they are planning out their finances. You do save and invest and get to a point where you stop working and you retire and you actually spend down some of your assets. That's the entire point of all of this, is to invest enough now so that when you are ready, hopefully sooner than later, whether it's 40s, 50s, you can get out of this whole rat race, if you will, and you can just live on what you got, right? And spend that money down. Now, also, the objective here as well is to spend as much as you want and that you want to enjoy, and have a whole lot left over for someone else to inherit. That would be the ideal scenario. But at some point, you will have to spend down, or should spend down, and enjoy some of the money that you have built. Now remember, these are medians and averages. These are not benchmarks. So I would not, again, hold this over your head and say that you have to hit this number by this age. I don't think those are really helpful or productive, because everybody's career and scenario and situation is completely different, and it's very difficult to put everybody in a box and say that by this age you need to have exactly this amount of money. I don't think that's really helpful, but I do think it is helpful just to see what the median is and where you are, and then come to a conclusion for what it is you feel is most necessary. I think that is extremely important and more productive in conversations like these. As we have those and we've discussed those, let me know what you think in the comments. Were you shocked, surprised, disappointed in some of these numbers? I think for me, because I'm still under 35, I would have thought it would have been a touch bigger. I get the average at 76. In my experience, and I'm a little bit biased because I get to see people's numbers as someone who deals with finances and talks to people all the time about money. So I get to see account balances and stuff. So I think on average, I can see the 76, but I'm surprised that the median is less than 15,000. Even though, as I'm thinking out loud here, you know, if I'm counting people in the 20s, 25 or so, right, it can drag down that median. So just interesting. That is one thing that stood out to me. And then obviously 75 and plus, really the 65 and 75, I expected it to continue to rise, right? I can understand why it could be lower, but I expected it to rise a bit more. It really just kind of capped out at about 255,000, and that was it. So that was very interesting on the median side as well. Most articles, and I would tend to agree here too, is that why I don't call it a benchmark, most people say that's not enough, right? If I'm trying to retire, even though somebody handed me 250,000 right now, I'd be elated. I'll take that. But if I have to live on that for the next 20 or 30 years, that's going to be hard. Okay, so obviously we want to shoot much higher and as high as you possibly can in these areas. But the only way that you can do that, and the best way that you can do that rather, is by tracking where you are. Figure out where you are, because what you track is the thing that can help you to actually get there, right? If you don't measure it, you can't master it. So that's something that you want to pay attention to as well. If you need help with that, we've got it all in the members only. It's there. We did talk about net worth, and we've been talking about it for the last week or so. Did an entire video on the exact spreadsheet that I use to do it. And I track mine, I would say, quarterly at most, but just like I do everything else, is really June and December is when I really get in there and update all the numbers just to see where I am and notice and see if my net worth is increasing over time. right? The last thing I'll say is, remember, there are ways to increase your net worth. You got really 2, maybe 3 ways to do that. You can pay down your debt. For every dollar that you pay down in debt, that increases your net worth. You pay off $5,000 loan, you finish paying off your student loans, your net worth will increase by that amount of money. Perfect. One of the best, most straightforward things you can do. Also, you can continue investing, continue saving, and adding on the asset side of things. That is something that's going to help you. Or you can do both, and that is really spreading those 2 categories apart, and that's something that's going to increase your net worth as well. Last thing I'll mention, because some people ask this question, do I include my home in my net worth? For me, yes, I do, but as I explained in the members only video, I take my Zillow estimate. So whatever, I type my address, Zillow, and whatever they tell me, that's the number I put in on the asset side, and then I go and log into my bank, see what my mortgage is, and subtract those 2 things out, and that gives me the equity in the home. And if it's positive, which it is, thankfully, that will go into my net worth. So that's how I do it. That's how I do it, because you want to count what you owe, right? I owe the bank some money on this house, and then the house is worth just a tad bit more. So I want to take into account that and add that to my net worth as well. So that's how I do it. Let me know how you do it. If you do it, there are programs that will help you track it as well. We did talk about that last week, so you want to make sure you check out that video too. All right, that is it for me. I will talk to y'all tomorrow.